Hello, everyone. Happy New Year. Welcome to the Categorically Romance Podcast. My name is Bree, and Dory is here. And we were just chatting. That's why I totally just fumbled the intro because we can just sit and talk. But we're here to do our New Year episode. Dory, Happy New Year.
Yes, Happy New Year. I'm so excited to be here with you, my friend.
Me too. I already told you offline. This has just been the highlight of my weekend.
Mine too. Mine too.
But as we were chatting, 2025 has started off with a bang. I feel like we had to do this last time we recorded our New Year episode. Like something happened the last time that we recorded. I can't remember what, but oh my gosh, was it the floods? Remember? Was it last year? No,
Yeah,
was that?
probably.
Yeah, those floods.
I swear, every time we
It's
hop
something.
on, it's
Yeah.
something in this
Well, I
world
mean,
that's going
for
on.
anyone that's listening overseas, being back home in Ohio, but having left California, kind of explain, you know, what has gone on, and our hearts are with everybody, but what has been
Ooh.
happening?
Yeah, so I moved at the end of last year back to Cleveland, where I'm from, but I lived in LA for 17 years, so a really long time. And it feels like another home to me still, like I haven't been gone that long that it feels different than home, So at the beginning of the year, like first couple days of January, they were having horrible winds in LA. The Santa Ana winds were blowing, and I mean like 100-mile an hour winds, crazy speed, and it caused wildfires in multiple areas of the city at the same time, which made it really hard to contain them all because multiple huge fires burning all at once. It's like there's just not the manpower
Yeah.
to handle that. And the winds continued to kick up. They spread really quickly and over long distances. And I mean, I don't live there anymore, but my job is still based in LA, and our team was heavily impacted. My boss has still not gone home. Her home is luckily still standing, but has tons of smoke damage. It's going to take a week to clean it. Um, and it's just been devastating. I've never seen the city like that. Whole neighborhoods just decimated. I have never seen anything like it in my 17 years there. So it was really devastating to watch from afar. And I just felt my heart just felt so heavy that whole time. And, it's like the start to the year, the first week of January, people are losing everything.
Yeah.
I just think about how there's always that hopefulness at the beginning of the year, and you just want to kind of revel in that a little bit and think about fresh starts and new opportunities. And to start the year off like that, oh, devastating. So my heart goes out to everyone in LA. I know that it has been so tough and really scary and just, I mean, unprecedented, honestly. There's never been a situation like this in the city. So really heartbreaking way to start the year.
I don't show it nearly as much as I did last year. I feel like last year we watched it every day, but CNN has it's called CNN 10, and it's 10 minutes of news for kids, like middle school and high school. And so we were watching it on a day when the fires were happening, and one of my kids was like, how does that happen? So we Googled it and researched it, and I just was like, I was like, we show you this because a lot of these kids have never left the city of San Antonio. Some have
Right.
never left Texas, and it's like, guys, there's a whole world out there.
Yeah,
you
there's a
know,
whole world. Yep.
literally something is always happening outside of our little tiny existence here. And that's just, and they got to see kids their age, standing in line getting food and, waiting for help. And it's like, You don't want to be at school, but it's a privilege to be here right now. Like these kids
Mhm.
would love to be about to go home from school, but for some of them, like their homes are gone. It's
I
crazy.
know, and for some of them, their schools are gone.
Yeah.
Like, imagine you just don't have a school anymore, and then you have to get reintegrated into other schools. Like, it is just so destabilizing on so many levels and completely devastating. I mean, it was just my boss. I had been watching all the news coverage and everything, but it still felt, I mean, I think it was so awful that it just didn't feel real. Like I just, part of me just could not believe it. And my boss went home after about 2 weeks. She went to her house just to like assess the damage, to pick up some things, check things out. And she was driving through the neighborhood she grew up in, and it was gone,
Oh no.
burned down. Like her childhood home, just like across the street. You were looking at one house, and then across the street, nothing.
Nothing.
And just, she was driving down the street, and it really made me cry because, those were streets that I used to drive down, and I just can't fathom the destruction, and so much has been lost, and so it has just been a doozy of a 2025. And before we got on with Bree, I was just saying that this has been the worst entry into 2025 ever. Just a nightmare
It
January
really
from
has.
start to finish, because lest we forget, there were like terrorist attacks
Yes.
on New Year's Day that we woke up to. Insane.
Yeah. Yeah. I hope, and I feel like a lot of the girls are like, I refuse to let this year be bad. But ooh, January. The way that January started, I mean, we've got planes crashing, and it's just, it's really sad. Like, we just have to take care of ourselves. I don't even know. We just have to take care of ourselves because it's a lot going on.
It is a lot, and we have to protect our peace however we can, because I mean, it feels like it's going to continue to be a lot
It really does.
this year.
Yeah. And the fire thing, like it made me, I was listening to, you and me were talking about, well, I think it was the last time we all recorded no, I can't remember. You somehow we were talking about Sex in the City, and you were talking about how sometimes you'll re-listen to season or rewatch season 3 for
Mhm.
comfort. Maybe
Mhm.
it's because we were talking about Emily in Paris, you and me. That's what it was. So
Mhm. Yep.
I'm re-listening to um, one of my favorite podcasts, Sentimental Garbage. Caroline and her friend Dolly Alderton, both writers, they did Sentimental in the City way back in like 2021, where they just recapped each season. They're in the UK, so they say series. So each series for the great American novel that it is. So they just did like each season rather than go by episode.
I freaking
And
love that.
girl, it's amazing. And so it's like it's my comfort. So they were talking about how America can feel like a bunch of little countries.
Mhm.
And I was like, it really
It
does. And I
does.
think the way that I look at it is like us being Midwestern girls, we automatically think, oh, our storms are like tornadoes, right?
Mhm.
And
Yep.
then like you moving to the West Coast, it's like the West Coast is the country of like earthquakes
Earthquakes
and
and
fires,
fires. Mhm.
and you go down to Florida and you've got, tropical storms and hurricanes and things like that. And it's like, it really kind of is. And I think one of the makeup that we think of when we're moving around, because I have friends in Canada who are like, we don't move around like you guys. When we move around, I think you kind of think about like, well, what's the thing over there? Like
Right.
if
Yeah,
moving from the
absolutely.
South, if I was to go to like Oregon or something, it's like, well, my thing is like, well, we don't get the cold like they do. It's like that preparatory thing that we have to kind of keep in mind.
Absolutely. It does feel like, I mean, the US is just so big, It feels like there are very specific and unique challenges, I guess, in every region.
Everywhere.
And it's just, I think it's just been so, it's been a crazy year because we've seen it everywhere, right? Like in North Carolina, end of last year, we see it with the fires, tornado season will be here before we know it. And so it's just really, it's like there's no break. You know what I'm saying? It's like there's no there is no relief from these storms and natural disasters that we have zero control over. Like
Yeah.
that's what I keep thinking about, how you just have no control over this. And as someone who likes to have control over things, that's a really
Me
scary
too.
thought, you know? It's like you can't control a wildfire. You
Man versus
can't.
nature.
Exactly. Like you can't control a flood, a hurricane, a tornado. Like that is so beyond us.
Yeah.
Um so yeah, it is wild, wild to witness what's
Even
going on
here,
right now.
we had a snow day, and I mean, San Antonio really did not. It's what my grand would used to she used to say, "That salt that you got on the ground." Literally, that's what it was like. But I mean,
So
there were places
cute.
in the South, like, again, showing the kids the news at school, like, I think they said, and was it New Orleans? Like, somewhere in Louisiana, they had more snow on the ground than, like, Nebraska and Idaho or something combined at one point. Pensacola had more snow on the ground than it has ever had in like recorded history because they don't get snow. And I'm asking my kids, I'm like, why is that a big deal? They're like, well, it's Florida. It's like the beach. I'm like, exactly, guys. Like
Yes.
something weird is going on. Like the
Yes.
South was covered in snow, and the South does not get snow like that.
Yes, climate change is really showing out this
Yeah.
year. Like
Yeah.
really showing out this year.
And then TikTok was banned.
Oh my gosh, Bree. Madness. Just madness.
Girl, at like 10:30 on like a Friday. I was like, "Are you serious?"
I know. I was like scrolling through TikTok around that time and it suddenly started to like slow down.
Oh no, you
And
were in
then
real time.
yes, and then the videos were getting a little fuzzy, like the quality wasn't great. And I was like, what's wrong? Is it my internet connection? And then suddenly it was gone. And I
I
was
know.
like, oh, they really cut it. They really cut it. They didn't even give us till midnight. They
Nope,
just cut it.
nope. And then you wake up to this like glorious message that President Trump has undid the ban, and I'm like, "Okay."
Is here to save the
Here
day.
to save the
Uh-huh.
day.
Uh-huh, sure.
I saw this thread. Somebody was I just protected my peace. I don't look at everything like I probably should, but there was someone on threads that was like, let's not glorify this person for this because during their first run as president, like they wanted to get rid of it
They
too.
said TikTok was dangerous. He
Yeah.
was
So
saying TikTok was
I was
dangerous
like,
and we should get
okay.
rid of it. And now he's taking credit for saving it. We live in the upside down. Like this
We do.
cannot be the real world
Yeah.
that we're in right now.
We're like Coraline and we like climbed through the closet and we're in like her other
100%.
house.
Yes. Yes.
So before we get in our list of topics, we realized that we both love something, and you don't understand how much it meant to me to hear you say that you love this thing because I usually get so made fun of. You are also a Sleepless in Seattle fan.
I am, and I'm actually really shocked that people don't love
Girl,
that
people
movie.
do
Like, I
not
love
like that
that movie.
movie.
I don't get it. I think it's perfect. I think it's perfect.
Well, I rewatched it last weekend because the book that I finished this morning is called First Time Caller by B.K. Borison, and it comes out I think next week or the week after, and it is in her like acknowledgments at the end. She wrote like she feels like Sleepless in Seattle is a love letter to love and loss, like, loss of first love, loss of, your love of like your children and finding love again. And she's like, I watched it at 14 and it just really resonated with me. So this book is like her love letter to the movie. And if you are a
Oh,
fan of the movie, you will pick up on I mean, the whole thing just feels so Sleepless in Seattle. Like the
Oh, I
main
need to read it.
girl, you're gonna adore it. The hero is the radio host. He has because it's like a call-in romance show and everything has been so negative, he's kind of given up on love. Like, man, people are really hurt out there. It doesn't seem worth it, kind of thing. And then the heroine's daughter calls in for her in the middle of the night. And that's how
Oh.
everything kind of takes off. And the radio station kind of brings her in because people are like fascinated. And it's set in Baltimore, that's where Annie
That's where
lives.
Annie's from,
Well,
yeah.
yeah. It's so good, and I was just like so I rewatched the movie last weekend and was messaging you with you, and you're like, "That's my favorite too," and I was like, "Why do people not love this movie?" I feel like, yes, they spend the whole movie apart, but Nora Ephron so masterfully, like, Dory, when I tell you, and it's probably the same for you, I will rewatch the ending 5 times in a row and start crying
Yes.
all over again. When Sam and Jonah walk off that elevator and see her standing there holding Howard in the backpack.
Oh.
I lose it because it's like Tom Hanks and her lock eyes, and it's like he knows I've seen you at the airport. I saw you standing
Yep.
on the street. And then when Jonah's like, "Are you Annie?" and she's like, "Yeah," and Tom Hanks is like, you could see him mentally being like, "Thank God this is Annie." Like,
Yeah.
he's like, "You're Annie," and Dory is perfect. Like, it's just
No.
the perfect example of angst, I feel like. What do you think?
Just
What do you think?
feel like that ending is magic, and then I was also telling Bree I love that soundtrack. I think that's such an important part of the movie. It's just beautiful. And at the end, my favorite part of the end is that they can't stop looking at each other.
Yes.
Like they're walking, it is just like the culmination of all of this time and curiosity and wondering and the idea of like fate. And I think it is just such a magical ending to the movie. Like they cannot stop looking at each other,
Yeah.
and it is so sweet and beautiful. And I think the cast is A plus. Like Rosie
Oh,
O'Donnell
I
kills me
adore
in that
her.
movie. I love her.
She's like, the
Um,
crazy thing about it is, like, there's nothing weird about it at all.
yes. Oh my gosh, that's
God!
the thing. And there are so many iconic lines MFEO made for each other. Oh,
Going back to that scene at the end, because he had talked about how the magic in the beginning on the radio was like he was just helping his wife get out of the
oh,
car. He's like,
that
I was just holding her hand,
scene.
helping her out of the car. And then him and Meg Ryan, like he holds his hand out for her at the end.
Oh my
It's
gosh, I
those little details.
know.
Like, if you know, you know. You just pay attention and it comes like he talks about how he's telling Jonah about how his Jonah was like, I think I'm starting to forget her. And Tom Hanks just like, she could peel an apple.
And
Like,
one long ribbon.
yep. And then we get that
And then
shot
we see her do
of
it.
Annie doing it
Oh
too.
gosh. So good. It is just so good. And, you know, I also think what I love about the movie is that it absolutely is about all different kinds of love. It is about the love of your children, your family, how love feels when you've lost someone, and also the
The
friendships. Like,
friendships, yeah. Yep.
the friendships in this movie make me so happy. And also the idea of like loving someone, but them just not being your person, right? Because Bill Pullman in this movie is such a good guy, right?
Yes.
Like he's such a good guy. He's just not her guy.
Yeah.
And I think
He's
that's
not the magic.
beautiful.
He's not the
Right.
magic.
And I think that that's beautiful how that's handled too.
Yeah.
Like, I just think I'm shocked that anyone could not love, any rom-com lover could not love Sleepless in Seattle. It is one of my favorites. There's so much about it that's iconic to me. I swear when I was a kid, I wanted to move to Seattle after I saw that and live on one of those houses in the water. I thought that was so cool.
Oh my gosh. I and like talking about the friendship. I mean, her and Rosie O'Donnell's friendship is
The
just
best.
perfect. Like you hopped on a plane and you flew over there. Like there's nothing weird about it. And then him with his friend, they're walking down the street, and the guy's like, "Yeah, they want you to have a cute butt." And he's like, "Is my butt cute?" And he just like stands and raises his jacket up, and I'm like, I love this bromance for him. Like he has his people too, you
I
know?
know, Rob Reiner is so funny, or when they're talking about, with Tom Hanks' actual wife, um,
I
that
know.
scene where she's talking about, what's the movie?
Oh gosh, the
Uh
same isn't it the same one that Annie and Rosie
Yes.
O'Donnell
Yes, and she's describing it, and she's crying, and they start making fun of her. It's just so good.
So yes, guys, rewatch it through a different lens,
Oh,
okay? Like
beautiful. I love
it's
it so much.
I mean, I think a lot of people's favorite is When Harry Met Sally, which I have watched. I've watched it once. And I will say that I watched it after probably 2 years straight where I watched Sleepless every Saturday. So I went into it with under protest. Like I did not want to see it, but at the same time I was like I just need to know, is this one better? And I still prefer to watch Sleepless over When Harry Met Sally. Like I don't hate it. It was great. But I don't know, there's just something about that ending of Sleepless gets me unlike any other rom-com. And I
I
know some people don't
know.
call it a rom-com, but like any other film, I will rewatch that ending like over and over again. I have to watch it like 5 times in a row before I turn it off.
I know. I love When Harry Met Sally. I love it. Um, but I still love Sleepless in Seattle more. I think I maybe I watched it too at a pivotal time when I was just kind of like becoming a rom-com fan.
Mhm.
And it just kind of, some movies just kind of imprint on you when you're younger. And I think that this was one for me for sure. My mother loves it too. It's so funny because when you mentioned Sleepless in Seattle, my mom had a few months before she had texted me and she was like, I just finished watching Sleepless in Seattle. Whenever I stumble on it, I have to watch the whole thing. So it's her favorite too. She loves it.
Mom has good taste.
She does. She does.
I think that a lot of people are like, they're not doing resolutions. And I think that we did a good thing here. Like, we kind of eased into the year before we did this episode. So now looking back
Hmm.
on 2024, what did you walk away from 2024 having learned, do you think? Like, what was your big teacher of 2024?
Um, that's a good question. I mean, the
What was your
truth
thesis
is
statement?
the truth is 2024 really kicked my ass. I'm not going to
Me
lie to
too.
you.
And here we are starting off with a bang in 2025.
I know. I know. It just was 2024 was relentless. But I think the one thing that I took away from it, the one kind of positive lesson that I took away from it was like, even if you have a hard year, it can still be a productive year. Like, I wouldn't necessarily say that 2024 was a good year for me because it was rough, but it was still productive. Like, I still made progress in important areas of my life and I got myself closer to where I want to be in life and closer to the person I want to be. And I think that I'm really proud of that. But man, it was hard. So I think that I really have been taking away this lesson that, like, even if it's tough and even if it's challenging, it is worthwhile, whatever you're going through in life. And I think that that's really hard to remember when you're in the midst of something. It's not until afterwards when you're reflecting that you can kind of take that lesson in. And I'm not sure that this was a new lesson, right? I think it was just a reminder that even when things are really hard and complicated and kicking your ass, you can look back months later, years later, and say, that was hard, but it got me closer to where I want to be. So that is really what I have been carrying with me into this year. Like, even if it's hard, I'm one step closer to where I want to be.
Do you remember that like 90s girl movie Now and Then?
Yes, of course.
So I just remember the quote from Teenie. She was like, "It's normal for things to be shitty."
Yes.
Listening to you, I was like, "Oh yeah."
Yeah, because it was rough. Like, I had a rough go of it, and, I don't pretend that I was, happy and, like, looking on the positive side a lot of 2024, but now with a little bit of hindsight, I can see the bright spots and I can see the progress. But what about you?
Well, it's normal for things to be shitty.
Yes.
And I feel like
Yes.
2024 really was like, you're about to go through hell, pretty much like end of August, TBD, because we're still ongoing. But
Mhm.
I don't, I think my biggest takeaway was once my marriage really started falling apart, which I have not addressed here on the podcast. So I will say, hi guys, that's why I've been so MIA. My
Yeah.
grandmother passed away in September. My husband moved out a couple weeks later. My uncle just passed away after having a stroke. So it's been a lot. But having those losses, I think, really made me realize how much the women in my life are the loves of my life,
Mhm.
and I
Yeah.
just and most of the women that I, communicate with and who know my secrets and to know what's going on don't even live here, like you're in Ohio, and Jazzy are out in California, like my sisters in Missouri, my cousin's deployed right now, my best friends in Georgia, like most of y'all aren't even near me, but it just, I think, and every one of you has like all of my girlfriends that know like what I've been going on. The first thing that everybody said was like, you have to really figure out who you are when you're alone.
Mhm.
And I think that has been what that's been kind of what I've been focusing on is like, yeah, who are you when you're not attached to some guy? Because I have been one of those girls, and I think it's, doing a lot of journaling. It's like just feeling at one point in your life like, I'm not the girl that it's going to be easy for to like get guys. So when you do get a guy, you're like holding on to them with like everything. And I do think that that's why
Mhm.
I've ended up in some really shitty relationships that I shouldn't have stayed in. And so now it's like, and every one of you said something about peace. And I'm like,
Mhm.
I just want to experience that. I just want to experience the peace. And I feel like, and I write in my gratitude journal every day, like, I am the love of my life. And I put like, one of the things that I'm grateful for is like my life at the moment, like my life right now. It's just me and my kids. It's my girlfriends who are voice messages away. And my world does feel really small. It's walks after work. It's rushing to throw some bacon in the air fryer on the way out so that my son has something to eat because my daughter's already made her coffee and we've packed lunches, and it's just, it is peaceful, I think
Mhm.
that's like my thing is, I just think I whatever is going to bring you some peace. And I think I just learned that for so many of us, we are afraid of being alone. But then I talk with my girlfriends who have been single for a long time. Like I have a couple of girlfriends that are like, I have never had a relationship. And they're like our age and older. They're like, I have
Mhm.
always been single. And like, while they have those moments when it sucks, they're just like, but yeah, I still like have such a full life. I do everything that I want to do. They're writing books, they're taking trips, things like that. So I don't know if that answers the question, but
I think it
that's
does. I
yeah.
think it does. And I mean, I just have to say, I have really admired you as you've gone through this. It is not an easy thing. And I've really just been really inspired by how positive you've been, even when things get hard, and how committed you are to um, making this moment in your life a good one in the end. Like you're in the thick of it now, but I think you have a really great perspective on where you're going and what you deserve, right?
Yeah.
And I really admire you. I think that you are doing a really brave and hard thing. And I think that in the end, though, it's ultimately going to be the best possible thing for you.
Best. Yes. That's what I tell myself. One of the like Pinterest quotes that I saved. It's just like, show me how good it can get. And that's what I tell myself. And I have on my mirror on the back of my door, it's like, my life my life this time next year will not look the same. And I
No,
say that in the mirror like every day. It's not going to
I
look just
love
like this.
that.
So I think we talked our words of the year last year. Do you have a word or words of the year, or are you just kind of like letting them find you this year?
I've been thinking about it. And so my word last year was new. I wanted new everything. I felt in a rut. I felt stagnant. And boy, did I get it, like, you know, moved across the country. It is new everything. And it's like new living situation, new city, new all the things. Um, and that was wonderful and hard all at the same time. But I think my word of the year this year is grace. Because I think that and I'm sure a lot of people can relate to this, but I'm like really hard on myself. And I think that I'm just at a point in my life where I want to cut myself some slack. Like,
Why
life
do you
is
think you're
hard.
hard on yourself? Why do you think that?
I
That
think
feels
it's a
like a very Black
perfectionist
woman thing for us
thing.
to do.
Oh, absolutely. I think it's a perfectionist thing. I think it's I have to be the strong one thing. I think it's a kind of aversion to showing any vulnerability, emotion. When things are hard and I struggle, I feel like but you shouldn't struggle. Like you should be able to handle this. You should be able to do literally anything, which is not real. That's
Yeah.
not real life. And I think a lot of women, and like you said, Black women in particular, can relate to that. I think we're so hard on ourselves. And I think that this year I want to remind myself that no matter what's going on, being hard on myself and being mean to myself is only going to make it harder. It's only going to make it worse. So I want to have more grace for myself, but also for others. I feel like because I can be hard on myself, I can be hard on others as well. And I want to try and just remind myself that we are all on this floating rock doing the best we can.
So true.
And that looks different for everybody. And I want to be gentle with myself in times where I'm struggling instead of trying to push myself and be hard on myself, to try and quote unquote get it together, you know? So, and I also think about grace too as like fluidity and flow and movement, and I think I kind of want to have a good balance and a good flow this year. I kind of want to, and I feel like we're going to have to, right? Like, I'm just going to have to roll with the punches because, so, like we've been talking about, so much is out of our control. And so instead of resisting things and trying to fix things and make things a certain way, I want to kind of flow more.
Yeah.
And I think that's part of grace too. So I think that's going to be my word. Because I just feel like no matter what I want in life, I'm not going to get it by being mean to myself or being hard on
No.
myself.
No.
And
Yeah.
so, whatever that looks like, whatever decisions I make, I want to be kinder to myself.
You gotta be nicer to yourself, Dory. You're so amazing. I can't even imagine. I can't believe you're so hard on
Oh
yourself.
my
You just,
gosh, I am
that
so
seems,
hard on
as your friend,
myself.
it seems like you naturally are just a go with the flow kind of girl.
No, I am so hard on myself. Like, it's too much. It is too much. You know what I think it is, and this is going to get very like psychobabble here,
It's okay.
but my dad died when I was young, when I was 16. And I think that going through something traumatic as a teenager made me feel like, okay, this is the worst possible thing that could happen to you. And if something's not rising to like this level of trauma or intensity, like, you should be able to handle it. Like, if
Mm,
no one died, you should be able to handle it.
yeah.
And I think it has really been dangerous because it's like it hasn't allowed me to feel like I have the space to kind of feel to be anything other than like on top of life. Because if no one's dying, like, you should be able to handle anything because that's the worst thing that can happen.
Ugh,
When the truth is, like, we go through so many little traumas and little
all the time.
all the time, and it's like I won't let myself feel those things or or be down or try, because it is not that big a deal in the grand scheme of things. And I think that that is really dangerous because you feel like you don't have the right to be, to be anything less than perfect, or to struggle, or to be sad, or to be low, or to be down, about something that you consider small or unimportant or not a big deal. Um, so yeah, I think that's definitely something I need to work on, cut myself some slack because it is hard out here. Tell me about how you felt with your word last year, like what that taught you and what you're thinking about this year. If you have a word or a feeling or something that you're trying to experience this year.
I feel like last year I was so stuck on the word abundance, and I still love abundance. But this year, and this one came to me after I did some like end of year reading app, some website, and it was like it kind of like described my year of 2024 as a whimsical adventure because I read a lot of like children's books,
Mhm.
and I was like, I really love that word, whimsical. So I was like looking into it and looking at and it was just like all about play and being fanciful. And I was like, I really think like whimsy is my word for the year, or
Ooh, I
whimsical.
love
I
it.
just like I was telling my best friend, I was like, I got a pedicure recently. And I was like, yeah, I've been getting like glitter. And she's like, you're not 7. I was like, no, I'm not 7. I'm 38. But I've been loving getting glitter on my pedicures.
Yes.
And so she recently, I told her, I was like, you go next time you have the opportunity and you get glitter on your whatever color you're getting. And she called me yesterday. She's like, I freaking love it. And I
Yes.
was like, just because we're of a certain age, like my favorite age, I feel like I'm eternally 17. And so now that I'm like by myself, I've turned my bedroom into a total babe cave. I've got like this glittery lava lamp. I've got my, my favorite color is green. So my comforter is like green flowers. I've got Marilyn Monroe posters. I've got sticky notes hanging on my mirror with affirmations. I've got pictures of me and my little cousins hanging up on my door next to my mirror. Like, I'm just like, just have fun. Screw it. Like, you're here for a
Yes.
good time, not a long time. Like, just have fun and play. And, I feel like I've been doing a good job. I really do. I feel like I've been doing a good job. I feel like I've been sitting and just like, and I think another word is obsessed. Like, I want to be obsessed with things. I feel like you and me talk about this
Mhm.
quite a bit. Like,
Mhm.
and the thing about working with like sixth graders is I just love how obsessed, unapologetically obsessed with things kids become. Like,
Yes.
if a girl in my
Yes.
class is dating a boy, she's obsessed with him, obsessed. Because
Yeah.
and I tell them all the time, I'm like, oh my God, you aren't tainted by heartbreak and experience yet. So you literally just have like this obsession, and the emotions of it all. And I'm like, I want that for us. We deserve to be obsessed with things too. So that's kind of my vibe this year.
I love that. And just that feeling that anything is possible,
Anything is possible.
like you said, not tainted by life and experience. Anything is possible when you're in that frame of mind,
Yeah.
you know?
Okay, so I've been seeing this trend, and it's the girls on Instagram are doing it, and it's the vibes we bring to the function. And so I was like, well, maybe we could both share, like, if we were to do a audio vision board of the vibes we bring to the function, like, what are a couple of things that would be on there? So, like, I'll start. Of course,
Okay.
it would be like romantic comedies. Specifically, I would have the picture of Annie driving in the car crying as she says magic over the radio, right?
Mhm.
That's the vibe.
Mhm.
Iced coffee, it doesn't matter that it's been kind of cold here. Like, I'm going to probably have an iced coffee or a pretty latte in general. That's my 2. I would definitely have like a Harlequin romance, like a paperback copy of a romance novel, 3. 4 would be probably just like something like 90s cartoon or something that just represents the 90s, because that was the decade that I was a kid and I still feel so attached to. And then I think my 5th one would be like our like one of our group chats, because just to represent like
Oh,
chats with my friends, like, that would be the vibe that I feel like I
yeah.
bring to the function. So what is yours? What do you think?
I saw Denise Wheatley. Did you see her post?
No, but I'm gonna look it up.
She posted hers on Twitter, and it really made me laugh because she said, these are the vibes I bring to the function when I leave the house, that is. And I was like, okay,
Exactly.
that's me. Denise, you are speaking to my heart. That is me. So I think mine would have a little dog on
I
it.
knew it. I hoped you
Of
would say that.
course, because he is my life. The dog is my life. um, I really love trees and being in nature, so there would be some trees. Um, I think I would definitely at this moment I would have a cozy mystery on there. You already know I am in my cozy mystery era, reading, watching, all the things. I would definitely have, I think, a podcast mic and some headphones because I really do love this medium of expression. I love podcasting. I don't do it nearly enough, but I do love it. That would be on there. Some ice cream would be on there. The great love of
Absolutely.
my life
Yes.
and my
I have some
favorite.
Haagen-Dazs in the freezer right
Oh,
now.
girl, there is nothing on planet Earth I love more
It
than
is
some ice
never too
cream.
cold outside.
Never, never. I will always want ice cream. I think I would put a picture of Scotland, which is my favorite place to travel to, my favorite place I've ever visited. So I would have some sort of like Tartan Scotland theme in there somewhere for sure.
What would you say is your current era? Like, what are you, however you want to swing it. What's your era right now?
Oh my gosh, that's a good question. My era. I am in my anything is possible era. I feel like I just feel very open to what the next year is going to bring. Zero expectations. And we're going to see where the chips fall. Which is new for me, like I am very much, as we've been talking about this whole time, very much a control freak, very much trying to um, make things have the outcome that I want. And I think I'm trying to kind of let back, like pull back, let go of some of the control, and just see what's out there for me.
Yeah.
I don't know. And I'm trying to get more comfortable and kind of more excited about the unknown and feel like anything is possible. So I think that's where I'm at, if that makes sense.
Show me how good it can get.
Show me how good it can get. Yes,
Yep.
Bree.
Yep.
Yes, that is my era. What about you?
I feel like I'm definitely in my like soft girl era. I'm definitely there, and definitely like just, I don't know, playful, probably the most girly era I've ever been in. Like my daughter, she's 16. Um she is obsessed with making those like friendship bracelets because she's a
Mm-hmm.
Swiftie. So we've been spending a lot of money on like the beads and the rubber band, well, all the stuff that like goes into making the bracelets. And I will go to work with like 5 or 6 bracelets on because she's making them. My girls at school are making
Oh.
them, and she's made me one that says, I'm definitely down with the whole let them theory. So she made me one that just says let them. She made one
Oh.
that says be happy. And then she's made me one with like all 3 of my kids' initials. And because she knows I love the beach, like she always puts like a seashell or something on there. So I love it.
That is so sweet. Can I tell you nothing makes me happier than your Instagram posts of your adventures with your daughter, who is your mini me. She looks exactly like you. You
I
look
love it.
exactly the same. Y'all have the same face, and it is so cute. I'm always like, "Ooh, where are they off to today? What coffee shop are they off to
Girl,
today?
she
What books are they
loves coffee
reading?"
shops. If she could be a barista right now, she would be a
Oh,
barista
I
right now.
love it. I love following your adventures. They are so sweet.
And I told my mom, I was like, she just autumn, and this is the second time I've seen this in my life. The first time was my husband deployed, and she was literally in, like, 2nd grade, and I remember the first time that I had a big grocery order to get out of the car, just this little body, like, coming over, like, "Okay, I'll help," you know? And so now it's just like it's almost like I can just tell that she can see, like, mom's by herself, like, I need to be there with her, like,
Oh.
every day I come home, she comes home after me, and she'll be like, "Okay, if you're gonna go for a walk, I'll take a shower, and then I'll just wait for you down here, and we'll watch something," like, and my mom
Oh.
just like, the daughters just know. She's like, "They just know." She's like, when me and your dad divorced, she's like, "You did the same thing. She just knows, like, you need her." Maybe a tough question. Well, you kinda answered this a little bit, and I want you to expand on it a little bit more, but what's bringing you comfort right now? So I know you're in your mystery era. Talk about it, because okay, everybody that's new to the podcast, Dory and I became friends out of our love for Hallmark. Dory has been using the Hallmark Plus, which she may convince me to go ahead and start paying for again, because it seems like that's the hot spot for mysteries. So, like, how
Yes.
did the mystery era how did you find yourself there?
Well, it's so interesting. I think the mystery era started when I moved. I just kind of needed some, because there was so much change. I just needed some comfort. And at the same time, I wanted to catch up on some mysteries that I hadn't really been watching on Hallmark because, Hallmark and me have beef sometimes. So, like, there are moments where I'm just not watching it. I'm just not
We
paying
love
attention.
them, but we will go a whole year without watching them.
100%. And that's exactly what happened. For, I want to say 2 years, I didn't really watch any mysteries. And so I thought that when I got home, when I moved home, it would be the perfect opportunity to catch up. And I just remembered what I loved about them. And I just love they keep me so occupied, right? Cuz it's a mystery. You're trying to figure it out. You're like watching all the red herrings. You're trying to like parse through whatever this mystery is, and so it keeps me engaged, but the cozy mysteries are a lot lower stakes than like a thriller or something crazy, right? So I have been seeking out mysteries everywhere, like Bree. So we got BritBox, and
Oh, okay.
so I have been watching British mysteries nonstop because they do it better than anybody. Those Brits, you know how to get me with your mysteries. So I've been watching a ton of shows on BritBox. Some of my favorites are Death in Paradise and Beyond Paradise. Those are two mysteries. And
And they're just, like,
Shetland.
full-on movies?
They're series, they're
Series? Okay.
shows. Um, I mean, and Death in Paradise, I think, is like 15 seasons, 16
Oh
seasons.
my
So,
gosh.
yes, so you can like go back and be watching them forever. And then there's one called Shetland, that is Scottish, of course, my love of Scotland. So I love that one. And then we also got Acorn TV, which I hadn't. I remember when Acorn TV started and I knew it was a mystery channel, but I swear I had forgotten about it.
Mhm.
And but I'm like jonesing for these mysteries. And so I'm looking for them wherever I can find them. Acorn has a ton. So there's a show on there called the Madame Blanc Mysteries that we really fell in love with. I think it's 3 or 4 seasons now. So yeah, I have been a full on mystery girl era. It's also fun to see I like that it's a new cast of characters every episode. It's like there are new people
Oh.
involved in this mystery. You have your main people, right? Detectives or private investigators or whoever are solving these mysteries, but it's like a rotating cast of characters that they're meeting and engaging with. And so that keeps it fun and fresh also. So yeah, I am in my mystery era. I mean, and we're just a mystery family,
I love
like
that. Yeah.
my parents used to watch mysteries together all the time. I grew up watching, you know, PBS Masterpiece, Poirot, and all of that. So I think that at my core, I'm just a mystery girly, and I have leaned. I mean, I think it makes sense, right? Like I was going through a big change, so I went back to
A
something that I loved when I was a
comfort.
kid. Yeah, it's a comfort thing for
Yeah.
sure.
I was literally just looking up YouTube videos yesterday of Nickelodeon had this show. I think it was a little too old for me when it was coming out, but The Mystery Files of Shelby Woo.
Oh
Did you
yeah,
ever
I
hear of
remember
that?
that.
Yeah, I was like,
Yep.
"Oh my god," and then they had, like, Harriet the Spy. Just
Mhm.
oh my gosh. Well, I love that. I love that. I every time I read a cozy mystery, which I feel like I don't read nearly as many as I should, I'm like, "Oh," I'm just reminded of how good they are. They're so good, and
Yes.
there's something for
Yes.
everybody.
Yes.
Well, I have been slowly stepping my cardio game back up. So I mean, it's been cold, so it got a little rough, cold and rainy. So it was a little rough there for a while. And I was like, okay, no excuses. I have a jump rope. I've been like jump roping in the garage on days when I can't go for a walk.
I
A
love
walk is
it.
like so much more my preference. But now that it's warming back up, I've been able to like go for walks after work, and that is like perfect audiobook time for me. So I love that. And then my Netflix binge, I've been watching Emily in Paris.
Yes. I mean, you have kind of convinced me that I need to watch it.
I would love to get your perspective simply because I know you love Sex in the City.
Mhm.
And Darren Star is part of Emily in Paris, and there are so many you can just I don't know, there are so many through lines that I'm like, I need somebody that loves Sex in the City to watch this and tell me what they think. Now, our friend Rachel stopped after like season 2 because she's just like, I feel like everything wraps up so perfectly at the end of each episode. I feel like that kind of brings me comfort. So it's like
I like
whatever
that.
floats your boat. Whatever floats your
That's
boat.
what I want.
Yeah.
That's what
Yeah.
I want.
I mean, there are some dramas that may bleed into another episode or whatever, but like just kind of like, Carrie and Mr. Big, there's definitely a Mr. Big in Emily in
Okay.
Paris, like
Okay.
and you see all these other wonderful suitors that it's like, but Alfie, the black guy, he's so gorgeous and you want her to be with him, but you just know like he's not her Mr. Big. It's over. You just give it a try. Just give it a
Okay,
try.
I'm gonna give it a try. I am gonna give it a try.
Do you feel like it was a successful season for all the feels?
I do. We had a lot of fun. Um, we, you know what made it successful was finding Mr. Christmas. I think that
That was y'all's fave.
yeah, I think that just like shook things up a little bit from just us covering the movies we had. And I think, we all started in reality TV, so we have a genuine interest not just in the show but kind of the inner workings of a show, and we have kind of a little bit of a behind the scenes perspective, right? Having worked in the field. And so I think that was really fun to cover that. We did not expect to, we did not anticipate it, but I watched that first episode and I was like, girls,
You were like, you guys have to watch this.
you have to watch this. As soon as I started it, I was like, Mel and Erica need to watch this stat. We need to discuss this stat. So I think that made it really fun.
And
We,
Mr.
I mean,
Christmas did do a good job in his movie.
I have not watched it yet. I'm going to be honest with you.
Okay.
I have not watched it because you know what happens at the end of the All the Feel season? We have all of these big ideas. We're like, we're going to catch up on movies. We're going to record again after the bracket's done. And then we don't because we're just overwhelmed and exhausted
Yeah.
by Christmas content. So I do still want to watch that movie and see how he did. But we did really love finding Mr. Christmas. We loved Mistletoe Murders on the app. We loved Holidays on the app. So it was a successful season because it was different. Hallmark gave us something different, and that was exciting.
So, fan request. I just would like for y'all to do like kind of the quarter, the seasons after Christmas or leading up to Christmas. Do like, I don't know, a check in. What have y'all been watching? What else have you been interested in? I want to know. I want to know,
Yeah,
like, were there any winter movies that you guys enjoyed? Were there any spring ones that y'all enjoyed, or any of the summer ones that you enjoyed? And whatever fall harvest BS that they try to feed us, and then lead us into it, or just like one big episode before. I'm always like, I want to know what all the feels thinks about this movie. I mean, and I have
right.
you, but
Yeah. Well, you'll be happy to know that Mel did just send out a text to us yesterday and said, thoughts on recording an episode for February? It is the month of love after all. So
Mel has my heart, okay?
so Mel's reading your mind. And I think I always want to record more, always. It is hard to get
Yes.
us all on the same
Schedules and
page
yeah.
schedule wise, but I think that that's a really good year or a really good idea to even do a catch up pre-bracket episode, just like, hey, how you been doing
Yeah.
since the last holiday season? What's been going on?
Yeah, and I mean, it could just
um
be what y'all have been watching, like, it doesn't even
yeah.
have to be talking about, anything specifically, like, from Hallmark, but, like, you with the mysteries.
And here's the truth, like, if we're not watching um Hallmark movies, we're watching like Real Housewives. So that's honestly what we talk about 90% of the time. Like our group chat during the holidays is mainly Hallmark, and every other time of the year it is
And see,
Real
again, going
Housewives.
back to the word obsessed, even though I don't watch it, here, like, I would totally listen to an episode of 3 friends who are obsessed and are just recapping the current season or the end of the season that just happened. So
Oh my
just
gosh.
saying, because you guys have all the feels about the thing, I would
We
totally
do.
listen.
We have all the feels about all the things. So, yeah, I always laugh and say I wish I could release our text messages because they are just unhinged shenanigans.